Welcome back to the bodacious and freaky deaky Comic Vault. I am Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And today, Eric and I are gonna chat about the third volume of the Mirage, Eastman and Laird Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This book covers, at the end of it, it's got Return to New York, where we finally leave Northampton after a whole year, and this goes in real time, so that means that if you were reading these when they came out, it was a whole year before we went back to New York.
Longer.
It might have been. And we have several other one-and-done stories that we'll probably talk about real briefly before this, unless there's one that you just really want to dive into real hard.
We could run through the four of them briefly.
Are there four? I guess there are,
yeah. Yeah, because they each do two, but the fourth one kind of doesn't count.
So, we've been talking about these trades, not just the stories in them, but the interesting way that these are collected and the notes that are put in here, the kind of liner notes, as it were, by both Eastman and Laird. With the two books before this, Eastman did most of the talking, and Laird would have a little blurb about each book, each issue before it, but Eastman always talked first, so he only had like a paragraph or two, and then Eastman did all of the... I don't think Laird did any of those, right?
Not in the first two.
In the first two, Eastman does all of the page-by-page breakdowns, and he skips pages, but it's basically page-by-page breakdowns.
Yeah, and like it was weird because like it would be like the Donatello issue that he keeps saying is all Laird,
and then you're like, well, how come Laird's not talking about this?
Yeah.
It turns out that they were apparently assigned books arbitrarily.
That's what it seems like.
Now into the third one, and we've not looked at the fourth yet, but my assumption is that Laird will also do all the talking for the breakdowns for the fourth book too, regardless of...
And then who knows with the fifth one, because it's only 5... Well, there's a sixth volume, but that one is weird.
So it's really strange because we're in a period here where they're not working together anymore until they get to Return to New York. And what's really strange about it is that you would not assign them their own issues then.
Yeah. Why not just have two by Laird and two by Eastman?
I really don't get that. So that's just these as books. As new collections of these. That's my biggest.
They're supposed to be like definitive compilations, and they're very close to that, but they're not exactly what I think they should be.
I don't like that there are places, and this is not on them, because obviously they're not in a room together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that there are places where where you'll see Eastman or Laird. They both do it in here. Laird a lot more than Eastman say. Here's the thing I wondered reading this. I've never asked Eastman this. I'd love to know that. And then we don't have an answer in the book.
It's
That's
much
really
more
strange.
like a commentary track where he's just like reacting as he's...
It's like, well, I'm never going to get to know that unless I go meet him at a convention. Like, why didn't we do a little bit of research and call him up and like you've got access to him?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't we do a little bit of Q&A back and forth? I mean, like, I don't know how exactly this was put together, but my assumption is it's just an email thing. It's just they're told here are the issues you're covering. But if that's what we're doing, then why not just give the separate issues?
My favorite thing is that Eastman loves everything they've ever done, and Laird actually is like, this didn't really work, and this doesn't make sense. Like
Laird doesn't like the issue we don't like.
Yeah.
He doesn't really care for it. He's as kind and respectful as he can be, but he's like, this is not my sensibilities.
Which is why it's so insane that he does the page-by-page breakdown for it.
Why does he do that? Yeah. It's so weird to read him hear him say. It's fun how casually they're writing, because like I have their voices in my head when I read those. It's cool. It feels like interviews, but it's weird that you read him say this issue. Literally, he says this. This is the Golden Cow issue, the Untouchables issue. He says this issue honestly was a little hard to go back and read, and then he does the breakdowns.
I also like for the fourth issue where he goes, "I've never read this before this sitting."
He said he never read it in one sitting.
No, I thought he said he never read it.
No, he acted like he was familiar with bits of it.
Okay.
But he said he never actually read it.
Because I thought he apologized to the artist where he's like,
no,
I'm really sorry, I've never read this.
He didn't know where it was going.
Okay.
But no, it sounded like he knew something about it.
Okay. He seemed to know about the production. I thought he'd never read the fourth issue, the weird out of continuity one.
I'll find it. That's not what he said.
Okay. So the first issue is kind of just a one and done TMNT story where they fight these guys called the Survivalists, who, or they call themselves the Survivalists. Their actual name is something. It's an anagram for crap, which is amazing because they keep saying the name of the organization and they don't.
I've never actually read the whole thing through.
Okay. So he's never read it in its entirety.
Yeah. That's not the same thing as he's never read it.
Yeah. But I thought that issue was all right.
Yeah.
What I discovered reading this is...
Did you think it was too preachy?
No.
Because I really didn't have that with it.
No.
Some of it's because this stuff is so exaggerated and over the top and in parody-esque anyway that I kind of get his politics in it with the ultra conservative like people with nukes that need there to be war, and if someone else isn't making it, basically it's the Cold War's coming to an end and we can't have that. But I think because of the heightened stylized nature and because the issue is fun, it didn't read like I was being screamed at or bullied or anything.
Yeah.
In the bully. I mean, not that I don't agree with some of the things he's saying.
No, absolutely. Well, and it's such an easy target. Like, no one's going to read this and be like, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, sure. Even if you're more conservative, the extreme of that is nuts. Where they take it. Yeah.
I mean, it feels a little redundant for the 80s, but I didn't I feel like I've seen and read
almost
things
obligatory.
Like that.
Where it's everything has to do something on this topic.
Yeah. But it was good. There's some really nice character moments in it. All the Trolls kind of get a moment. And it's a Donnie-centered issue, which makes sense, but not in the way you would think it would be. It's about him being both more pacifistic and a little bit more cowardly.
Yeah.
And I thought it was of the four. It's probably my favorite.
Go back and
I'm not sure.
I almost want to go back and see if it isn't for me either. It's definitely the comic shop issue, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't love any of these 4 issues. I don't love any of them.
Yeah. Just of them. No, I was dying to get to the actual meat, the big story stuff. But I get that you've got to have is it a better idea to have some standalone one-and-done adventures, or should we have had a big arc in Northampton? I actually think this was a better idea.
No, I like that it is. So this doesn't collect. So we leave
going
off
somewhere. I don't remember where it was. It's not a big deal.
We leave off with issue 11.
Yeah.
At the end of the last volume, this has 4 issues, and then 19, 20, and 21. So obviously there are some issues missing. That were done by other people. I think those ones are technically in continuity. But they weren't done by Eastman and Laird, which is why that 4th issue is weird, because it's not either of them.
Yeah.
Eastman says he was credited for story, but he didn't actually really work on it at all.
So it's just a weird technicality.
Yeah.
And that's why it's in there.
Yeah.
They should have left it out. It's not bad. I'm not wishing I hadn't read it, but it doesn't really give us anything.
I wish we had more of these where it was a bunch of one and done adventures. I feel like it almost feels like we didn't know what to do when we got to Northampton.
Yeah.
So
it does read like that.
Or that they immediately wanted to get out of Northampton.
You know what I would have done? Again, I'm saying this in retrospect, in hindsight. I would have, not to go back to a tangent that I did a lot on the last book, instead of having some issues that should have been in the numbered sequence called micro-series, this was where to do those.
Yes.
You give each character...
Or you do them again.
You do them again. You give each character his own story, and here's what Northampton life is like for Leo. Here's what it's like for Donnie. And you get that to some degree, especially with Donnie with that one issue, but they're not all centered on just one character, and they should be character studies for how these people are coping, especially because that's Leo's whole reason for forcing them to stay there. He keeps saying in Return to New York, no, Raph, you can't leave because we're not done
Raph stuff
healing.
Almost comes out of nowhere based on the previous issues.
But what's weird about it is it's clearly there in the issue that got us to Northampton.
Yes.
And it feels like, having read those now, I feel like we should have had an issue for each of them. I didn't even have this on until just now. We should have had an issue for each of them that explored beyond the single page of each of them that we got with the way they were each coping. Being that, we should have based an issue on each of those pages from that previous issue that got him there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's when they
right.
most come alive.
Yep.
Is at their those really vulnerable places where they're really conflicted, or they hate themselves for not being able to take down the Shredder, and like they each handle it differently. That Donatello pacifistic idea that you brought up, I want to mention that because that's what I was talking about earlier that I didn't finish.
Okay.
Because that has become sometimes a big part of his character, where he ends up being almost utilitarian, where sometimes Donatello in various Ninja Turtles continuities will decide that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and he'll like make a deal with the devil or do something like make a bad pact with a bad guy or something. And I wonder if this is the first sense of his maybe having those leanings, or if we went back, if we would see more of it before this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure.
This might be the origin of that.
Yeah.
There's a really great... I hope I'm not giving anything away by saying this when you finally get there, if you see it, but there's a great fake-out in Tom Waltz, where you think he's doing that, and it's actually part of a big grander scheme.
Oh, nice.
It's great, yeah.
The second issue is the Golden Cow issue, which is...
Self-indulgent is the best way.
Super self-indulgent.
Yeah. There's some great art in that.
There is some really good art. But when you get to the breakdown, or when you get to him talking about it, he's like, and this was an in-joke, and this was an in-joke, and this was an in-joke, and this was an in-joke.
Like, set in Northampton and about specific places that are really there.
I don't mind a lot of visual in-jokes, but it feels like in some ways the whole issue was kind of
I felt like you had to be him to appreciate that issue.
Yeah.
And I feel like it had to be 1988, or whatever year it was, because I've never seen The Untouchables. Even if I had, like, it seemed like that was just a big thing that he was into right then. Like,
yeah, and that felt weird. Like, they've talked before about kind of cribbing from influences and things like that.
It's weirder when they just came out, though, right?
Yeah, and as pointed out in the afterword by Laird, where do they get the clothes and the guns? It's just... He says he had to contrive a reason to get them into Untouchables gear. He doesn't actually contrive a reason.
No, he doesn't. They just and Laird asked that question.
Yeah.
He's like, they just pop out with this, and Laird is really into continuity. When I say continuity, I don't mean larger continuity. I mean he's into that too. But
there's an amazing one he catches.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. But we'll talk about that. Panel to panel continuity, where he's like, this isn't a cartoon. I mean, like, what we're doing has parody elements, but there's an internal logic. We can't just reach behind us and pull out stuff.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, I said it's weird when it's right then. We do parodies of things like that all the time. Like, you know, if Poltergeist just came out and you did the obvious parody issue where it was just Poltergeist, but you never came out and said that, like, I guess like people would enjoy that and accept it. Maybe I didn't appreciate this because I don't hardly know what Untouchables is.
But it's not that. It's not. It would be more like if Poltergeist came out and then 2 months later they put an issue with Doctor Strange that was just Poltergeist with Doctor Strange. Although... It's not that, because this isn't the Untouchables in any way. It seems like his big influence from the Untouchables was the visual stuff. This is not... The Untouchables are the guys that took down Al Capone. I don't know what he's cribbing from. I don't get how the Untouchables actually influences this.
I think he thinks it's funny because it's like this sort of organized crime thing in a small town.
No, it is, but like...
And like there is kind of a almost fake sense of intrigue. Maybe not even fake. I mean, I guess there is an intrigue in it, but
it almost goes too big. It almost feels like it should have been almost like borderline a spoof, where like it ends up being nothing. But like that's what happens to Casey. Like I feel like Casey's story is where the issue should have gone. It should have been almost ended on a gag, but he actually wanted to...
I never know why Casey cares that much about the Golden Cow. Like, we don't even talk about it.
No, it just seems like he has some kind... Like, it was always there when I was a kid, and now it's gone. It's really important. It feels like someone who's never read crime novels and has seen a couple of crime movies and loves a couple of crime movies trying to do a crime story. It doesn't feel like he actually...
Because it doesn't feel like his wheelhouse.
No, and he thinks it is, and Laird says it is, but I don't think it is. I think it might be something he likes. I don't think he gets... architecturally, like I don't think he gets structurally. Like I don't know if he actually knows how to tell one of those stories. The big thing I got from this is, I think Laird is a much better storyteller. I think when it comes to ideas and themes, I think Eastman is more in my wheelhouse. But I think Laird is a better writer. Mm-hmm. That's what I got from this.
And that's why they're better when they're together, but this ends up being a really interesting artifact, of course, because you are finally seeing them have to run off by themselves. and see their strengths and their weaknesses more. Like when you put them together, their issues get more close to nigh perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like you hear Laird constantly talk about how, almost to a point of jealousy, about how great Eastman's layouts are.
And you can tell that.
Yeah, and like they both obviously are visually minded and have a great sense of the comic page, but Laird's strength is storytelling before it's creating a brilliantly laid out page.
And Eastman has some really brilliantly laid out pages. Yeah. And he has some...
I think Laird is better at it than he gives himself credit for.
I agree. But he has some... One of the things I think he's a master of is a transition. Like, it's a panel, and then something different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's essentially like in a road in the film, where, like, this becomes this, and he does it masterfully. Like, a number of times within that issue, he does, like, it's the... and then something different. Yeah, I'm talking about Eastman. The big thing that I got a sense of, I'm interested to know if you got a sense of this, does it seem like Eastman was way lazier?
I didn't get that.
Laird drew 2 whole issues, scripted them himself. Eastman drew 1, and I want to say he had a number of assists on it.
I obviously I remember him talking about
or that Eastman's more invested.
People that,
or I mean, Laird's more invested.
What we don't know behind the scenes is if Eastman was more involved in the day-to-day business dealings.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I wouldn't have immediately thought of that, or like, oh, look, he's lazier. Like, you're right. I mean, like that's, that's a clear. What was I trying to say? That, I mean, like clearly that's a fact. Is Laird's doing more work on his own stuff,
mm-hmm. And then we have the 3rd issue, which is the superhero issue, which doesn't make any sense, but is a fun little romp. And the origin of Metalhead.
A character called Metalhead. It's not Metalhead. It's not the Ninja Turtles character I think of as Metalhead.
But it is a Ninja Turtles character named Metalhead.
They never bring that up. I kept waiting for them to be like, I know there's this other character named Metalhead, but we had nothing to do with that. They never bring it up. They just talk about Metalhead like that's the only character ever called that. No, they have their own Justice League that's called Justice Force that exists in the same world that does not look like a world with superheroes, but something we find out there at least used to be some. And I wonder if the Tick episode Grandpa Wore Tights didn't look at this issue, because it is Grandpa Wore Tights.
Interesting.
In a lot of ways. I mean, it's these really elderly superheroes where you see the way their powers have aged along with their bodies. Like that episode does exactly the same thing.
Interesting.
Where there's this character in the Tick episode who shoots his eyeballs out of his sockets. He's rockets from the sockets, and they shoot out. And they have rockets behind them. But when he gets really old, he tries to shoot them out. They just plop on the floor. And this issue does a lot of stuff like that. And it's got like I really like the idea of the speedster who's in a wheelchair, so he can speed himself really fast, but he can't run anymore.
A friend of mine once created that for a pen and paper RPG. He had an adamantium wheelchair, and he just spun it really fast.
The thing I didn't like about that issue right out the gate is, and this is just a pet peeve of mine, I don't like it when you have a fictional comic in a world of real-life superheroes that you don't come right out up front and tell us is based on them. And so for about 4 pages, I didn't even know what was going on, because we saw the Justice Force comic first, and I thought maybe characters from the comic had come alive or something. I mean, like, there's precedent for that. We've done things, that's the Kirby issue, we've done stuff like that in the series already, and then we come to find out, no, it's just a book based on these real-life actual superheroes. I don't like stuff like that.
No, it feels so weird that it's a fine issue. It needed to come up with a contrivance.
Yeah.
Because, like, all they needed to say was...
This world does not have those kind of superheroes.
Was our last adventure, like, made everyone forget? Or something. All you need is something like that. A throwaway line.
Because it's not about the reminiscing the way it ought to be. And that's where... it's weird that I'm comparing these things, but that's where Grandpa Wore Tights is better about it, because that's like what... It feels like this issue is yearning to be about, but it's... sometimes I think these early Turtles issues have this problem where they have a hard time balancing the like kind of moral of the story and the themes and the ideas with the action, and they always err on the side of action, or they often err on the side of action because they know that that's what their readers are coming to. They're almost apologetic sometimes about actually telling a story. Do you agree with that?
I mean, it's not a sense I really got. They sit on action a lot, but I think it's because they're good at it.
Yeah.
Like Return to New York is a lot of action.
But sometimes it feels like the issue is yearning to explore its ideas more. And they're oversized issues, and they just don't take the time to do that because action is what they think they're better at, or what they think is expected from them.
But every time they get to like a double-page spread, I can't be like, well, you wasted 2 pages.
No,
because they're always
great.
great.
You're absolutely right.
Sure. And they're not wrong. Like Laird's awesome at technology. Like the little robot guys, like they're great. I love them. I love the big robot.
Sometimes the moral feels like an afterthought to the point where I wouldn't even think about it if I wasn't reading them talking about it. Where it's just that's not the thing that came out and grabbed me. Like I'm not dense. I'm not. Superficial. It's not like I don't think deeply about things, but sometimes I'll get to the end of one of their issues and
that's what that was about.
I'm like,
that's what you think that was about.
Okay. Like that's and not even that it's not there, just that it wasn't a priority for me as I was reading it.
Yeah. It's also okay. Also, just really briefly, that cover must only work in person, right? Because he explains how hard he worked, and I kept looking at the cover to the issue, and I'm like, oh, that's what's happening in that? It doesn't look damaged to me.
I didn't have that.
Okay. Especially this. I thought this was part of the artwork. I didn't immediately get that was supposed to be like a super damaged comic.
Well, I'm with you. I think you'd have it. Okay, so here's the thing with this. I forgot all about this until you just now handed me this. You said it probably works better in person.
You own it?
I've had this in person. I sold this on eBay once.
Okay.
And I had the very thing that Laird talks about where I thought for a second it was actually a damaged book. So,
nice.
No, it does work.
I'm sure it works in person, but this, I was trying to figure out what was going on.
But if you... It was nice of them to print what the original looked like. Did you look at them comparatively?
Yes.
Once you look at them next to each other, you have a much better sense of what he's doing. I
agree.
You're right. The kind of coffee ring is... When you print it on the page, kind of harder to tell what it is. Yeah. What we're talking about is issue 15. They try to make it look like a Golden Age comic that's been beaten up and ruined. And Laird, in order to make this work, because this is an easy thing to do now, but back then there weren't computer programs where you could doctor this. In a Photoshop, so he actually he actually made a photocopy of a pristine-looking cover that they made, and it looks like this. This is the messed up version, and he goes into his truck and he puts it on the floorboard for a month, and he messes up the edges and he puts drinks on it.
You know my favorite detail of that whole thing, of that whole story is
to ruin it.
He said he tried putting coffee on it, and coffee wasn't doing what he wanted to. He just had to paint the coffee rings because it wasn't actually damaging the art.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, and it wasn't discoloring it the way he wanted it to.
Yep.
And I like that he put a piece of tape on it,
yep.
Which I don't think you can tell as well here as you can when it's in person. But that was a really cool idea.
Yeah, yeah. And then we have the last of the four, which is a weird story that kind of doesn't have a beginning, middle, or end. Well, it has an end. It feels like it's the end of a longer story.
I thought it was all atmosphere.
I wish... So, the guy that they're going to get most often to draw...
It's a big chase sequence.
Yeah. The guy that they're going to get most often to draw the Turtles is Jim Lawson. I wish it was that guy. Because that guy, I thought, had killer art.
I thought that issue was just too under-detailed for what he was trying to do.
You mean the actual art?
Yeah.
Oh, I adored the art. I wish it was with a better story.
Let me look at it again, because it's been a while. Something about it where I just didn't feel like that artist quite fit. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm digging on it more as I'm looking at it. I think maybe it was just the... maybe when I said that I was thinking of something else, just art-wise. It's been a few days since I looked at this. But there's... obviously, because this is a different artist, it's really jarring going from what this book looked like to this and then back again. It just looks like a totally different thing. This shouldn't have been in the sequence.
No. And that's the thing is, it felt like
we should talk about what actually is in this book. But.
So it's this kind of story about a Ninja Turtle looking for his brothers, and
well, he does call himself Michelangelo.
Oh, does he say he's Michelangelo? Yeah. Okay. Because he kept using different weapons. He doesn't just use the nunchuck. Sometimes it's katana. Sometimes it's.
Really? I didn't pick up on that.
Yes, he uses a bunch of different weapons. I kept trying to figure out.
He called himself Michelangelo.
I kept trying to figure out who he was, and I'm trying to read into this book that has nothing to be read into it about.
Yeah, the shadow work in this is really cool, and once again, really Miller-esque.
Where I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, are they trying to? Because my initial thought was, they're telling a story.
I am Michelangelo.
Okay. They're telling a story that... What I originally thought was they were telling a story that was both in and out of continuity.
Yeah.
Where, like, you're seeing events that are happening in continuity, but in a completely different way. Like...
Oh.
Like we were going to see Michelangelo go through a journey, and Michelangelo will have gone through that journey next time we see him, but it's an out-of-continuity story. Like, I thought it was supposed to be something like
this
that.
This is the way he's imagining it, or it's not this epic, but in his mind, he's imagining it that epic.
Yeah,
or it's a dream version.
And so I'm trying to figure out, like, he's talking about trying to find his brothers, and I'm like, okay, well, last issue they were all together. Like, I kept waiting for it to come back to the real world and explain to me why I'm reading it.
Bunch of pages trying to figure out... I got fixated on this. I spent a bunch of pages trying to figure out how the Ninja Turtles... snuck onto a plane to get to Japan until I realized that they were in the past. Because it took me a while to figure that out.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of areas and you know, like little villages and stuff in Japan that just look really traditional and have not been aged by the passage of time. So I didn't realize that we were supposed to actually be in feudal Japan times.
Yeah, it's...
Did you have that? Or did you right away get that we were in the past?
I want to say I picked it up pretty quickly, but I don't exactly recall.
And so then it turns out at the end that it's like there's a big kind of, I don't even want to say, oh, Henry thing, but there's a big twist at the end where it turns out that this is a story that Michelangelo is drawing.
Which, by the way...
Apparently he knows how to draw comics.
Which, by the way, also, they don't tell you that. You have to read the Cliff Notes. Nothing about that picture told me it was Michelangelo when he's sitting at the drawing board.
I just made that assumption because it's only been about the one turtle the whole time, and I knew it was Michelangelo.
And I missed that it was Michelangelo. So,
I mean, to be fair, they do give you that.
That's fair, and I just missed that.
And he does say it more than the one time.
Okay. But I just kept missing it, I guess.
And I mean, of the four, you might assume that that's what Michelangelo's room would look like, but then, at the same time, there are a lot of issues where they're, unfortunately, pretty indistinguishable.
3 of them go to the comic book shop.
Yeah.
And pick up stuff.
But also, there are issues where I feel like Michelangelo doesn't sound much different from the other 3.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need him to constantly be joking and quippy and stuff, although... I think I guess it was kind of cool that this issue you kept expecting him to do that, and then the reason he doesn't is because he's writing it. So I guess that sort of works.
Part of the thing with early Turtles is I feel like the characters that we all know, that the identities that we have, they have them in their heads. They have distinguished them in their heads as these 4 personalities, but they never fully communicate, or they not never, but they don't often fully communicate it to you.
Which is part of why I say they err on action over story.
Mm-hmm. I think the cover's gorgeous,
and that's a much worse problem when it's not in color, and you also can't always tell which one you're looking at.
Yes.
If only they had more distinct voices.
Yes.
And I don't mean to be super hard on this. We're about to get to the best thing we've looked at so far, I think, but.
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't feel like it should be in this book.
There anyway. No, it doesn't. I mean, it should be my favorite because it kind of has a dinosaur, or whatever that thing was. It looks like a dinosaur. I don't know. But did you have what I did, where I was just all of a sudden, oh, and it's a dinosaur? Like, and they never explain it. It just comes out of nowhere because it turns out that it's a comic book. And I don't know, that should be a big deal reveal at the end, and it just wasn't for me.
Yeah. Because none of the story felt like it mattered.
Because it doesn't.
Because I kept waiting to figure out what was happening.
But, tell me if you agree with this. If the other 3 had been just stories about how each of the separate turtles are coping with...
If that was Michelangelo's issue?
And that was his issue, then it works.
Yeah, no, that works completely. Yep, no,
and
you're
I think that's what they thought they were doing.
Okay, so you want to talk about the
Let's do it. Let's do
the main liner? the headliner,
and just the craziest way to bring back a villain.
Right,
it's awesome.
Right,
yeah. And you may have to explain some of it to me. I'm not even totally sure what's going on.
I don't fully understand.
Oh, really?
No,
good, because I felt like an idiot.
I don't know what's happening.
When you get that big spread, that big splash page, or was it a 2-page spread of Shredder, I wasn't sure if he was made out of worms or not.
Yeah, it's not detailed enough. That's a problem I have with it. I believe
we should get there for people who don't know what I'm talking about. But I don't know if he's made out of worms or not. He might be. Anyway, that's how crazy it is. Okay, so return to New York.
That sounds weird out of context. I don't know if he's made out of worms or not.
Sometimes I want people to just take random things we say.
It's not detailed. He just looks like he's covered in scars.
Well, and I don't even want to say that it's not detailed enough. I think it's because of how it might partly be because of how heavily inked it is.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that was a little bit of an issue. And Eastman talks about it and why they went that way and how much he likes it, and I think it's overdone sometimes. And like some of the best art in all of this is in this, but I think there are places where it's just way heavier inked than it needs to be, to the point where, and he even says, like, there are places where it's hard to tell what's going on. I'm like, why is that a good thing?
Yeah.
So anyway, so let's set this up, because most people haven't read this. So I keep wanting to call this City at War. It's not City at War.
No, we will get to that.
We'll get to that. I'm excited about it. This is, but that's not till Volume 5, right?
No, it's 4 and 5.
Oh,
we have to review 4 and 5 together.
Exciting.
Because it's one 13-issue story.
I can't wait. So
it's about 30 issues later.
Whenever you think about the Leonardo and Raphael relationship and the rivalry, this is where all that comes from.
Yes. Or the movie. I don't know when the movie gets made, but I don't know if this is influencing the movie.
Out in I have the same
or if the
thought.
movie is influencing this.
Yeah. But obviously Eastman and Laird, or just Eastman, I don't remember, are involved somewhat in the film, and the fact that Leonardo and Raphael have the rivalry they do in that movie, I have a hard time thinking that it doesn't come from them, if not from this.
Yeah.
So maybe those two things are somehow happening simultaneously, but so maybe it is unfair to say that comes from this, but this is the first time it happens in their comics.
Yes.
And it's brilliantly crafted visually, and I mean, like, the argument's good. So Raphael is sick of being in Northampton and thinks that the Turtles are just biding their time, and he says, we're hiding. We're not healing. We've done enough of that. We're just hiding now. We're scared. We need to go back, or we're acting like we're scared. We need to not let this Shredder guy push us around. And he says, I'm going to leave. And Leonardo says, I'm not going to let you do that. And they just fight for pages and pages. And it's brilliant. And I think it's the best the best action without dialogue stuff, at least since that Leonardo issue.
Yeah. Well, and even before that, because we flash back, we start with that killer 2-page spread with well, you don't know it's Raphael at the time, but Raphael and
we actually
Sewer.
flash forward, but yeah.
No, we flash back. Oh, yes. No, I'm saying we start with this, and then we flash back to the fight.
I see what you're saying.
We flash back to how he gets there.
Yep.
But, like, it's just killer.
And I sometimes
I
hate
guess
when
you do
comics
Raphael because
do that, but that read less as a like in story 2-page spread to me, and more as just here's the cover blown up, but it matters to the issue.
Okay, this says 88 on the actual newspaper here, so it must be 88 when this comes out.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a bit before the movie. So
well, the movie comes out in 90, so they're in the middle of making it right now.
But yeah, no, it's just it's a fantastic fight sequence. I really like the I think there's a midpoint, because like this sometimes doesn't have enough shadow or inking. Like, it's a lot of just, it's more traditional black and white
about the last issue.
Because the artistic tasks are different each issue.
Right. And they were a little bit worried that would get jarring.
And it's not.
No.
They each have their own flavor.
It's really not.
Yeah, well, issue 3 is probably my favorite artistically, because it looks the most.
Well, and even though it's one story, it's one 3-part story. Each issue in its way stands alone. I mean, you need the other issues to really appreciate what's going on, but they are kind of a piece, at least artistically, at least visually artistically.
And there is a lot of visual storytelling going on.
That's most of it. And they both come out and say, like, we realized we weren't doing a whole lot of, like, deep exploration of characterization. That this is all action.
But it works.
But because you feel through these characters and you care about what's happening, and because it gets crazy.
Yeah,
and it's just really interesting.
Yeah. So Raphael goes back to New York and finds a Triceraton.
Yeah, and one of the weird things is that I felt as bad for that Triceraton as I ever have for any of the Ninja Turtles.
He's dying in our atmosphere.
He was incredibly sympathetic.
Yeah.
Well, and dying in our atmosphere and losing his mind.
Yep. And they're just lying to him to get him to come along.
Yeah.
They're playing into his delusions. Because he thinks that they're also
kind of sad what they're doing to him, but
yeah, I had that where I was like, this is a little morally not okay.
But at the same time, like, what else would you do? Because he might attack them, and he's going to be hard to beat, and they don't need a war on two fronts. And
yeah,
I mean, like, again, my sensibilities, I would love to have had a little bit of a discussion about that.
Yeah,
but
you'd think Donatello
would bring it up. Yeah. But like the Triceraton thinks that Raphael is his commander in a Triceraton named Zoraf. And that was great.
So obviously in IDW they're not allergic to our atmosphere.
No. No, they don't have to wear the breathers.
And I don't think that comes up. Maybe it does in the 03 series. I'm not sure. That feels like a detail that we lose. I don't know about the 80s.
It is
I've never
super realistic thing to do. You don't see that a lot with aliens and anything.
No, it's really cool. I like that it's not
most planets are just parallel Earths.
And I like that's not the obvious, like, it's just killing him.
Yeah.
Like, it's tearing him apart kind of piece by piece. Like, he's dying a horrific death. And then he kind of dies an honorable death. I don't know if they're into that kind of a thing in Triceraton culture, but if they are, he does die an honorable death. They seem to be.
I mean, he kind of talks about it like that.
That's true.
He's got the whole, warrior code thing.
And then, like, kind of all that happens after that is, like, they find out where the Foot are, and then they go and they fight the Foot. Oh, and the other three Turtles catch up with Raphael.
Yeah.
And they go fight the Foot, and then...
And there's not a big discussion with, like, Raphael, how dare you?
Yeah.
Which I kind of expected.
It's like, well, nope, we have to go do this. I also thought it was interesting in the afterward where Laird talks about how he doesn't agree with most adaptations where they have the Turtles go on patrol.
Yeah.
The Turtles fall into trouble and fighting things. They're not superheroes.
Well, he doesn't say most of them do that. He just says he doesn't like it when people do that. Like, I think he was specifically complaining about, if memory serves, about other writers at the time that would do that with them. Because if you think about it, most of the extra comic things, like in other media, don't really have them do that.
I mean...
Like, they don't really go patrolling much that I can think of.
They do in TMNT. I think they do in 2003.
Do they actually patrol in 03?
I think so, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't fully remember.
It's just, like, maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but it seems like most versions... and maybe there's just a fine line between patrolling and, like, cleaning up your own mess or dealing with... Because, like they might be patrolling specifically... Okay, like,
looking for something.
2012, they'll go patrolling for the Krang, but, like, they feel a particular...
Not just looking for crime.
Yeah, Krang instead of crime. But they feel like they have a particular responsibility because they know about that and it's underground and they're underground and nobody else knows about it. And that's different than just looking for crimes to bust.
Yeah. So
there isn't a discussion to be had about whether the Ninja Turtles really count as superheroes.
Yeah. So we get to the Shredder, or three of them.
Yeah.
Who are on the back cover. And I think, here's the thing. The three Shredders, I think, are so weird. I kind of hate that they're on the back cover. I don't think anything about the Shredder should ever be spoiled from this issue, because it's so weird.
So, sorry, but...
We're going to spoil it. And I think... Do they show up on the last page?
Yeah, they do. And when you get to that last page, I'm not totally sure what's going on, I'm like, is this three Shredder creatures?
Is it perspective? Is it like they... And even with the cover, I feel like you do not know for sure...
If that's
for a couple of pages, if they're
at.
Literally looking like that, or if it's like Fear Talks and they're like something like that. And then they are three weird, deformed Shredders.
And they could have just been robots or something, but no,
they are
it's gotta be weirdly deformed
Shredders, which is just like a stroke of brilliance.
I really liked Shredder's explanation.
Yeah, for the three of them. or just for how he exists.
For all the yeah, well, it's all interconnected, right? But for the genetic engineering, because he says the Foot Clan has mastered all this ancient mysticism, but we also have current technology, and when you blend it together, you get this insanity. And I really like that. Like, I like that we don't have a lot of technical jargon. We don't have technobabble about it.
But it leads me to not fully understanding how the Shredder did come back.
I don't know how it works.
It's something to do with...
I don't know what the rules are. Like, again, I don't need to know the ins and outs of it. I just don't know the rules about what the Shredder really is at this point.
So what we're told is... So we do get... After we fight the three of them, we get to an actual confrontation with the Shredder, the guy we saw back in issue 10.
Right.
With the cool double-page spread where he's leaning up against the thing. That Shredder. The Shredder that's now leading the Foot Clan. And we're told that when worms eat something, they take a part of what they ate and it becomes their DNA. And apparently...
And then a collective of them can become what looks like the organism that they fed on in the first place.
Yes. So they have them eat the Shredder, and then they become the Shredder?
Uh-huh.
Is that how that works? So I have been building this since we reviewed the first volume.
Is he the Oogie Boogie Man? I don't... But
here's the thing.
Before Christmas?
When he's fighting
does not need the burlap sack?
When he's fighting with Leonardo, it never feels like parts of him are like flaking off. He doesn't feel like he's a mound of worms.
But doesn't one of the Shredders turn into a man of worms, or like pieces of it flakes off?
Maybe.
I seem to recall. That's what I was confused about.
Because the Shredder feels very solid.
Yeah, he feels really solid. And so then I don't know when he says, and I don't know if I'm reading into this too much. Yeah, he's creepy as all get out, and the fact that we haven't merchandised the crap out of that is a crime.
Yeah.
But
they are in the 03 series.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because he said that, but I've never seen that episode. I've got to go back and look at that. I've been wanting to see that. So
I think it's in their Return to New York.
He said that it is. Yeah, but okay, so I'm gonna look for that panel. But
okay.
But so Shredder says, "I cannot die." I don't know what he means when he says that. I don't know if he's just like posturing, if he's just like trying to intimidate Leonardo when he says that, or if he actually thinks he can't die because he's made of all these worms.
Or that if he's killed, they'll just bring him back like this again.
Right, but the problem with all that is then you get to the notes from Eastman and Laird, and they think they have definitively killed him off in an impossible way to bring him back. And that seems like the easiest thing to bring back if you wanted to. When he says, once again, there are places where they explain things to me that I did not see in the panels. Oh, he cut his head off? Oh, I didn't see that happen. Like I went back and looked. Like you don't actually see it happens off page. You don't see Leonardo cut his head off. You just see them in the most Frank Miller Ronin thing in all of this.
Laird also says.
Laird does he?
Yeah, Laird says. I don't know if he ripped this off from Frank Miller or if he was just really inspired by Frank Miller.
Yes, he says that. I thought you meant he was about to say that he doesn't get what's going on there.
No.
Because you see the helmet. And that's a really famous picture. I've seen that before of the end of this with the turtles with the two big spread.
Yes.
And like that's been in a lot of places. This I've seen.
And this looks like the end of a video game cutscene, right? Like,
it does.
Like Nintendo.
It so does.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but from let me go back to it for a second. Humor me, folks.
Yeah.
From this.
Yep.
To Faboom.
Yep. Explosion.
To getting away and leaving through the secret passage.
I guess it's just that they have his head on a pike.
Hold on. I have his body that may or may not be missing a head because it's just got blankets over
just like
it.
In the carpet.
To this, that could just be a helmet.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that his head is in there.
I also had to flip back to figure out what was happening with the water tower.
Can you tell that his head is in there?
The flammable water tower. I had to flip back and figure out. I'm like, he shot the thing, and then but then like there's a fight scene between. It's not the best visually communicated thing, but boy, it is beautiful and glorious.
Well, and that's why I say it's wonderful. Like I'm not even saying it's bad. I just don't fully. I I think I'm reading too much into the worm thing. I think that is a solid shredder, and I think that the other three were experiments where... This is my read on it. Because he says the other three... It's like what I did in Spawn Year with the Doomsvents clones, but I didn't get it from this. So you have these three experiments where they attempted... I guess where the Foot Clan attempted to bring Shredder back, and they came back as these crazy monstrosities, and one of them's got, like, crab legs, and then they finally get it right. So my guess is you have these weird mutated things... and it doesn't fully come together. I mean, I don't know how this works. Do the worms eat other things before they ate the shredder? I don't know what's going on there.
I don't.
But they create these weird things that don't work right, and then maybe when you kill them, worms like fly off. I couldn't find the panel, but I'm pretty sure I saw that. And then the fourth, there may not be enough in the story to support what I'm saying. And then when you get the full solid shredder, it's because that collective is actually working right the way he describes it.
And
so
like
now
merges, right?
Yeah, and so it's
solid
basically
entity.
become a real humanoid thing, but it's a collective of worms. And so if you destroy it, its one big weakness, I guess, is that it can't all flake off and then come back together. But then I don't know what he means when he says you can't kill me, unless he's just being like, I'm mighty, you can't kill me.
Yeah, I don't know. But I've been building this since the first volume where I was like, I can't wait till we get to the Resurrection Shredder, because you're not going to know what to do with yourself.
I don't know what to do with myself.
It's so weird!
Yeah.
I love that it's here, because it feels, especially after those 4 issues, where it feels
but
like...
if I read this when it came out, I would be waiting for Shredder to come back. I know, I really would.
It feels like, when you read the preceding 4 issues before Return to New York, it feels like... they don't really know where they're going, what they're doing, or what Ninja Turtles is, because we have something that feels like a knockoff action movie based rooted in modern politics that everything's doing at the time. You have a superhero thing, you have a crime thing that's knocking off, like crime movie, like none of it feels Ninja Turtles
I have a
or
real
unique.
Distinct sense of what Ninja Turtles is before that. That doesn't read like they don't know what Ninja Turtles is. It reads like they're just meandering until they get to the good stuff.
Well, and the way they talk about. They didn't have a plan.
Because, clearly. But that's and you don't necessarily have to.
No.
You don't want it to read like you don't have a plan.
Yeah.
But when they get back to it, it feels like they're just finally and it's easy to read it as just, well, of course, they had to get back together and do a story again before it would actually read like this. But when they come back together, it's like quintessential Ninja Turtles. It's got all the crazy stuff that you loved about getting the toys from the animated series, but is serious and scary. Because it's got all those... Also, like, we would be remiss if we didn't bring up, like, the weird vehicles and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just so toyetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird that we always go back to issue 1 and a couple of other things within the first 5 or 10 issues when we do make merchandise for Black and White IDW Ninja Turtles, and we never go to this, and I don't know why.
We should have Worm Shredder, right? That should be a toy.
Well,
we should have Little Shredder.
This strikes me as the predecessor of Super Shredder. I have a really hard time not calling that guy Super Shredder.
Yeah.
And, like, he's not a big beefed-up Shredder. He doesn't look different from the or is he bigger?
No, I don't think he is.
I don't think
he's still sleek. No, Mirage Shredder's real sleek.
Yeah.
Or slim, I guess.
Well, and I don't even mean more muscular. I just mean, is he physically bigger than Shredder? I don't think he is.
I don't think so.
But it's hard not to look at Ninja Turtles 2 and think they didn't kind of get Super Shredder from this.
Yeah. If they brought Shredder back in Ninja Turtles 2 like this, instead of him just waking up in the garbage, but they did this, how much better is that movie? I mean, that's not hard. But
I'm wondering if Waltz doesn't do something with it. Because we've been waiting for dozens of issues now to see if he ever brings Shredder back. Now, he might have decided his Shredder is dead for good.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a Shredder that, spoiler alert for IDW Turtles, but you know this stuff already, I think. That is a Shredder that is from feudal Japan, like the Turtles are with their reincarnation, but he's not reincarnated. He's in his original body. I don't know if you know that. And
that's Insidious to the Foot Clan, right?
It's because of the ooze. Yeah, I thought you'd read that.
I haven't. That's the next thing I have to read.
Sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't mean to give that. I thought you knew that. I talk about this stuff all the time. I thought I told you that. But
you may have told me before, and I just forgot.
Well, I apologize.
Wait, Shredder's dead?
Because of the fact I don't even care anymore. because of the fact I've already ruined everything, so I might as well keep going. Because of that is the closest to a Gilbert Gottfried impression I ever get. But because it's his being able to be alive is ooze based. it's really hard to think that he doesn't bring him back in some way. But what I was going to say is, it's really impressive that it's not ooze-based here. That they try to come up with something else.
Yeah, something
I would have
completely
expected
separate.
it to be ooze.
Well, but they have no connection to it. The Foot Clan has no connection to the TGRI people.
No, I know, but that doesn't... But, I mean, it's really easy for them to say, yeah, the Foot Clan has mysticism and science. How hard would it be for them to be like, and they found a canister of the ooze somewhere? Like, that's not that hard to do.
No, it's just...
But I didn't expect it to be ooze because you have told me for eons that is the weirdest freaking thing you've read. You always act like that's one of the weirdest things you've ever read.
It's really weird!
It's really weird.
And I think it's weirder because it's a singular piece that doesn't
it's impressive that it remains weird.
Yeah.
I mean, decades ago,
but
this is still
that's what
strange.
I'm saying is, it's not something that informs later Ninja Turtle stuff.
No.
If we kept doing this, I don't think I would think it was that weird. Especially, like, if it was in, like, the 80s cartoon, or even the 04 stuff, I think I would have gotten used to it, and I was just like, well, yeah, that's how Shredder comes back. But because it's never been done again, every time you get to it, you're like, what is this?
Well, and Laird,
How do you get to this point in your mind?
Laird and the guys making the 03 series, the 4Kids series, they're obviously coming from those sensibilities when they do things like Utron Shredder.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of weirdness in that show, and I guess they do those shredders.
I don't know if anything is that weird.
Now, when they do those shredders, they're not just adapting this, though, right?
They are.
Like, are they straight up adapting it?
Well, so this shredder never technically dies.
Yeah.
I think they're just robot bodies, if I remember.
That's what I'm saying, is that, like, it's not as weird as this.
No.
It can't possibly be.
No, it's not as weird as this.
Because otherwise there would have to be, like, two shredders, like, because Shredder's a neutron, so...
Yeah, no,
And he's always a neutron, right?
Yes.
Like, that's a big revelation.
Yes.
And look, I've decided I'm going to spoil everything Ninja Turtles for everybody today.
Donnie didn't die.
Anything else you want to bring up about this before we move on?
No. It's still...
We were more critical than I guess we've been of the other two books.
But I think this is the weakest volume on the whole.
On the whole, and we were even pretty critical of some stuff in Return to New York, but it's breathtaking.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. I think it's the best looking...
Oh! Bring up the thing that really impressive, intricate detail that of continuity that Laird noticed. That
Okay. So
that I did not pick up on
because sometimes I don't know what's happening, and I'm just rolling with it. So there's a point where Leonardo is fighting with the Shredder and loses one of his swords, and is fighting with one sword. And there's one panel where, if you look really closely, you can see he has two swords. The next panel, he has one sword again. And, like, he's like, oh, well, he's got two swords, and that doesn't make sense. You can barely notice. You could fix that. You just put some white out over that blade.
Well, that's what he said.
Yeah.
He was like, if I noticed it, I might have suggested that we just fix it in post, you know.
It was insane. I'm just looking at this cool fight scene.
The Ninja Turtle Special Editions, they make that one change, and they spell Michelangelo right. That's
Yep.
And he mentions misspellings. Like he
so mentions misspellings a lot.
He's so critical of his own work and of their work that that stuff, whenever he sees it and he's never noticed it before, it sticks out to him like a neon sign, and it drives him insane. Like, you can tell.
It's also interesting.
He is a real and it's interesting too that Eastman is more of the intricate layout guy. But Laird seems to have more of attention to detail than he does. It's really interesting.
Yeah, because... I mean, that makes a certain amount of sense, because Eastman's more concerned about what looks cool. Whereas Laird probably labors over it a little bit more.
But I don't think they have a straight up and down, one's right brain, one's left brain. Like,
no!
There's more of it. And I guess if you're both going to be that great of artists and competent writers... then you would have that, right?
You've got to have always work together.
Me too. You've got to have a little bit of math and a little bit of, philosophy.
Because it's a stark contrast, right? Like the two halves of this book. Those first three issues, not counting the fourth issue that neither of them actually worked on. Those first three issues and those last three issues, seeing them on their own, it's like, yeah, it's okay. The second they get back together, once they're working together, it's great.
Now, you could say, well, that, makes it even greater by contrast, but if I just read those three issues in a vacuum, I'd still think they were spectacular.
You mean the Return to New York stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if I just read those three issues in a vacuum without having just read those other issues, I still would think they were spectacular.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just in contrast to what I just read.
No, I'm just saying it highlights how well they work together when they're together, or how well they work when they're together.
Yeah, I'm just like trying to noodle that out for myself and be like, oh, am I liking this more than I should? Because I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. I think Return to New York is really good. Even if I don't fully understand what's happening.
Yeah, that's a testament to it that I'm always engaged even though there are places where I'm not fully sure what I'm doing.
And I think you're gonna have some of that with City at War, but City at War is 13 issues, so buckle in, strap in,
strap in.